Okay. So good morning, everyone. Welcome. And yes, this is our final day of the 9 days of Dhamma, 25 years of Abhayagiri, honoring our elders, and certainly today is Ajahn Chah's birthday, June 17th, and so it's a particularly special day to recollect Ajahn Chah and that sense of honoring the elders who have, of course, even for most people who are here, never got to meet Ajahn Chah in person. A few people did, but still, people, say everybody here, has been influenced by Ajahn Chah or has received kind of a inspiration, direction, support in Dhamma practice because of Ajahn Chah, and to be able to take this day and to recollect with a certain sense of gratitude, respect, and to dedicate our practice, fruits of our practice, for in commemoration. And similarly, of course, that's just these past days of recollecting the Abhayagiri and the establishing of Abhayagiri as a place, but Abhayagiri also as a group of people, monastics and lay people, and Abhayagiri as a principle of creating a refuge of security and safety within the heart. So it's many different levels. But today in particular, being a day of we can particularly recollect Lupa Cha, and as say Kathy was recollecting in her mentioning in her closing comments, the sense of gratitude, support, and the say an event like this, a place like this, doesn't come to be without the involvement, commitment, generosity and effort of many, many people. And I think that is something that, say, Ajahn Chah in particular would be very happy to see, because that was certainly a focal point of his teaching and training, was development of community and practicing together as community, relying on each other as community. So I think it's something that, say, if Ajahn Chah would have been alive at 103 years old, which is what he'd be today, I think he'd be incredibly happy that say Abhayagiri is existing and is to a certain degree thriving, and thriving because of people who are willing to practice, to train, to give, to share, and it's those human qualities and human participation that makes a monastery, well, makes anything really. I mean, that's whether it's an institution or an organization. It's all about people. Ajahn Chah only ever came to America one time, 1979, and when he was here, he was. This is when he was in Seattle, and people there, lay people, Thai people, and kind of asked him if he could help to establish a monastery, and his response was sort of like, not yet, another 20 years, which is, I mean, the monastery was established in, Abhayagiri was established 1996, so not quite 20 years. So. But I think his blessings still go with us. So just thinking of how to both draw close to the legacy of Ajahn Chah and to help to support it into the future. Of course, that relies on our practice, our how we live our lives, and that's what Ajahn Chah would always focus on. Like I remember him saying, if you want to, and this particularly to the monks, but it applies to everybody else. He said, if you want to build a monastery, keep your sila, keep your virtue, keep your integrity. Have that integrity of conduct. If you want to do anything, you want to accomplish anything, you want to lay it on that foundation of one's integrity and commitment to what is according to Dhamma, what is kind of right, what is true, what is appropriate according to the nature of things. So whether we undertake things on a communal level or we undertake things on a personal level, Ajahn Chah's encouragement to always come back to making sure our foundations are solid, and then we can attend more clearly to developing the refinements of the path when our both our values, our commitment is really solid and clear. And thinking of Ajahn Chah, I mean, he was a kind of a wonderful both storyteller and was able to really use imagery, similes to illustrate Dhamma. and remember one time him saying, again, just emphasizing the need to clarify, what are we doing in this human life? What's really important? And of course, practicing Dhamma, living according to the principles of Dhamma is the most important. He said, but it's easy for us to get distracted, to get caught up, and to miss the point or miss the opportunity for practice, or just misconstrue the whole thing, looking at our life through the lens of our desires, our attachments, our clinging. And he said, we're not that different from chickens sometimes. You see, chickens just, they're born and they scratch around, spend their day scratching around, looking for food, and they go to bed at night and get up the next day and scratch around looking for food and looking for insects, and that's how they spend their time, and not really reflecting on what's important, what's necessary, what's truly useful for freedom of the heart. And he said, and oftentimes it's not just that whole humdrum kind of going through the motions of life. He says, but we oftentimes just get lost and it's like a chicken gets born. The farmer throws out rice for it, and the chicken is sort of, oh, isn't that farmer really nice? Isn't he wonderful? He's looking after me, and everyone, and they just eat up the food and eat up that rice, and days and nights pass by, and from time to time the farmer picks him up and oh, isn't that farmer nice? He wants to hold me, wants to sort of be close to me. And he says, and really all the farmer's doing is lifting up. Is he heavy enough yet to go to market? Is he heavy enough to be eaten yet? And the chicken's clueless. And he just keeps sort of happily eating whatever the farmer gives him and just hangs out. And it isn't until he's finally sort of, okay, and picks him up and he says, yeah, okay, he's nice and fat now. You can send him off to market, and then it gets sort of sent off, and the chicken is, oh, isn't this wonderful? This is a nice adventure. We go out on a car ride now. Get on the back of a truck and go off. And it isn't. Said it isn't until he gets to the market and the butcher's got the knife to his neck that he finally figures it out. And then by then it's too late. And that is human existence. It's kind of like that. People live their lives going through the motions, keeping themselves busy, keeping themselves distracted. And then they die, and then they do it all over again. So it's Ajahn Chah giving that plea for living, living life mindfully, living life with heedfulness, living life carefully, making good use of this human existence. And in particular, of course, cultivating really wholesome qualities of generosity and kindness and with a sense of sharing and empathy towards one's fellow human beings, but also paying attention to how to free the heart, how to liberate the heart, how to bring this heart of ours to a place of peace. And he said it's not all that and it's a really important point that Lumpur Cha makes, in the sense that in the same way that we can personalize or get caught up in our personal story about our lives, or we can personalize our spiritual practice, or how we conceive of our minds, that I have to make my mind peaceful, and I've got to get rid of these defilements in order to achieve or attain this particular level of peacefulness and insight. And he said, really, the heart is already peaceful. We don't see it, we don't understand it, we don't recognize it. It's to be able to, he said, in the same way that in the forest, the leaves of a tree are already still. They're already steady. But it's the wind blows this way, that way, and the leaves flow back and forth. And he said, that's the same with our minds. Our mind is intrinsically peaceful, it's intrinsically steady and clear, and it's our moods that move. It's our sense impressions that we get caught up in. It's our proliferations of expectation or fear and worry that move. It's not, the mind is already still, it's already clear. And just learning how to trust in that, learning how to return to that, learning how to discern what's the difference between the moods of the mind and the mind itself, the fundamental mind. And this is such an important piece of our training and reflection and investigating, so that we're able to realize that we do have a refuge within us all the time. Of course, these teachings, these practices are a foundation that allow us to kind of recognize or separate out. And he said another image that he uses, he said it's like at the seashore, there's, of course, at the sea, there's waves come in, and whether it's small waves or big waves, the waves come in, they hit the shore, and they go back out into the ocean. And he said, in the same way that say we have to make our mind like the shore, that is steady, that is ready to receive whatever wave comes. And he said, and we receive. How we do that is through our mindfulness and awareness, but also understanding of whatever kind of wave comes in, it is impermanent, it's unsatisfactory, it is not self. So whatever, whether it's a big wave, a small wave, it's a slow wave, it's a fast wave, it is received as the shore receives the waves of the sea, and it's with this clear seeing of just those fundamental truths of impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, not self. And it's not, I mean, of course, we do rely on a certain intellectual analysis, but we take it to a deeper level of seeing clearly. And of course, that's what our whole practice of Sila, Samadhi, Panya, our whole practice of virtue, of mindfulness, of investigation, is to be able to lay that foundation of clarity so that we can be this sort of firm shore that is able to receive our experience that we have, and we're going to experience things that we like and we dislike, that we want and that we don't want, that we accept or don't want to accept, we find unacceptable, and we can still see it in the light of these fundamental truths, and that's where our refuge is. That's where our steadiness is. That's where our well-being truly is. So it's the peace that is able to receive everything, but it's not peace that is kind of forced on us. It arises out of clear seeing. So just reflecting, and in particular, like today being Ajahn Chah's birthday, an opportunity to recollect with a sense of gratitude, but then say Ajahn Chah would always sort of say, as well, even the Buddha. So if you want to say, as the Buddha said this, if you want to honor me not with praise or anything of it. Honor it with your practice. Honor it with your living a life of Dhamma. That is the way to honor. And Ajahn Chah, similar. I mean, he would always, if you want to do something, do the practice, and that's an appropriate, and that's in the scriptural language is pati puja. So that because often like pujas are like offerings or celebrations or say the religious ceremony, religious practice, but it's doing the pujas through the practice and putting the practice into our daily life. And so that today is a day to do that, and we'll spend the morning, and then later this afternoon we'll be having an ordination. So you can take the rest of the morning to sit quietly.